All right, guys, you're on Flip with Rick. And today we're talking about my 22 years of no BS wholesaling advice in 79 minutes. I don't know how I'm going to squeeze it in, but I guess most importantly is you guys want the Cliff Note version, and I'm well aware of it. So I'm going to do my best today to keep it concise, simple. And if you use this live stream correctly, take my wisdom. The one thing nobody can challenge me on is I'm at 22 years of wholesaling. And I've had the good, I've had the bad, I've had the ugly. And honestly, it's well worth the journey. That's the good news is if you want to just cut to the end, it's 100% worth it. But what I want to do is share the experience and wisdom that honestly, if somebody went back and go, hey, these are the things you need to work on. These are things you need to focus on. That's the point I want to get across today. And honestly, if you're just starting out in wholesaling, and honestly, if you got 10 years into this and you're still like, oh my God, is this normal what I'm doing? I've pretty much seen it all. And that's what I want to share with you. And if you feel like you're all alone and starting out in wholesaling, honestly, it's why I founded this channel. Because for the longest time when I started out wholesaling, everybody wanted 25 grand. That was back in 2003. And that's a lot of money, probably be worth 60, 70 grand today. Nuts. I thought it was absolutely crazy. And I spent a lot of money and didn't get very far. So some of my personal biases on how to be successful in wholesaling is the creation of freewholesaling.com and the advice I gave from you. And I took my son at basically 16 and just gave him some simple starter information. And if you can teach a 16, 17-year-old this business, we can teach anybody that we want to do it. So knowing that, let's go through it. Let's get started. A lot of information to get through it. So guys, use the comments. Let us know where you're from. Share your positive experience. Share your negative. Let's talk about it today. And if we got some room at the end, we'll take some calls and we'll have fun with this. The whole goal is to educate you and inform you. And the thing is, I don't have anything to hide from you. It's so satisfying when you don't sell a high ticket course because there's not a hammer coming behind you. And listen, if people want to do it, it's fine. I'm okay with it. But the idea of this channel is you can get the truth about wholesaling. This is my opinion. It's what's guided me 22 years. And if you want to be in wholesaling and go 22 years and survive, you're going to have to take some of the advice I'm going to give you today. So consider this the talk that your father never had with you, your uncle, that uncle that knew how to make money, but your family didn't quite do it. And God, I wish I had all these people in my life. So a lot of my upbringing and what I've trained in wholesaling is from nobody giving me that information and me going out and seeking it. So if you're just getting started on the journey, welcome to it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Honestly, I want everybody to win. I want everybody to win in wholesaling, but how we win is always a form of debate. So let's talk about it. We're here to guide you. So I appreciate you guys. And so first of all, if you're new to us, make sure you go over to freewholesaling.com. It is a 100% free course me and my son have created with, I believe, 31 years total of experience. And this is what we do. Now, it's 100% free. I've never charged. You don't have to put in a credit card. You don't have to do a discovery call. And I know that upsets some people, but the reality is you just need the information. I know not everyone's going to take action on it. I know that 100%. But if I have 100 people go on there and 7, 9, 10, 12, 15 take action and they get their first deal, that's all I care about. Everything else to me is noise. I don't care. Remember, at the end of the day, me and Zach are the only ones that provide 100% free content. You do not have to buy anything from me to actually get a full education, not only to get your first deal, to get your first 100,000. And honestly, that is an amazing choice. And it's for you guys. The only people I listen to are my viewers, period. Everything else, why would somebody else endorse giving away free if it's counterproductive to what they're doing? So go to freewholesaling.com. Everything is there. Everything you need to get started. Why do we do it? Because the faster you can get the information and more importantly, get the correct education, 30 years behind us. Okay. I've done a ton of deals, guys. I mean, It's ridiculous the amount I've done. And I don't say it to brag upon you. It's just I have experience doing this. I still do deals today. Do I show everything on the internet? No. Number one, there's issues with showing addresses and HUDs. And just inside of my Flip with Rick Plus, I do tons of partnerships. Just look at the podcast we do with them. We share it every day. We're constantly working on deals, and that's what I love to do. So let's talk about it. So, okay, let me get my notes here. Awesome. Everybody's hopping on. Okay, let's jump on this. So the first thing is we have to understand, what is a wholesaler? A wholesaler is somebody that locates properties either in distress, either properties in distress, maybe the seller's in distress, and then you get rid of it. We all admit people buy real estate in America, and sometimes they don't know what they're doing. Banks give away mortgages to a point, and when people lose their job or life events happen, they get stuck. It is no different than like your typical pawn shop. And real estate is just a much bigger asset. The crucial difference is it is usually people's biggest decision they have to make other than life, like personal choices. And it's usually their biggest financial cost ever. So these decisions weigh heavily on people. And I have never, ever taken that lightly. And the way I teach it, I've never taken it lightly. But at the end of the day, it is the homeowner's ability to make the decision, not the government, not anyone else. It is the homeowner. And your job is to guide these people and help them. But here's what you got to understand. Everybody wants to sell their house. There's a select population that need to sell their house. And this is where I separate my trainings and what I do, is because everybody wants to sell something. A true wholesaler, and I'm going to only talk about wholesaling today because I believe a lot of real estate investing gets bottled up in wholesaling. And this is why there's huge differences of opinion. Wholesalers find people that need to sell their house. They ideally like to work directly with the seller because that's the best way to get a connection. And people usually need to sell. That's how we get great deals. I'm not interested in beating somebody on MLS. Even if it's a rundown property, I know 9 times out of 10 it's a delusional seller. And if I can't connect with the seller, I don't know about you guys, put in the comments. I deal with realtors quite a bit because I'm a very seasoned. Not only am I a wholesaler, I'm a real estate investor and I'm a property owner and all that other stuff. We always start out as wholesalers. That's the preferred way, the highest skill set you can learn in wholesaling. You can't, I've never seen somebody buy a ton of property, manage a bunch of properties, then become a successful wholesaler. It's usually completely the other way around. So today we're focusing on how to get started in wholesaling and the lessons you can learn from my wisdom. So we have to understand wholesaling. Wholesaling, I'm just telling you, I've been taught by a lot of people in the industry I've watched. And by the way, we've all learned it from somebody. If I told you I like owned everything that I've taught you, it's just no way. Stuff get retailed, yeah, whatever. It gets confusing. We'll get into that later. But the idea is a wholesaler is a marketer first. End of story. If you don't do the marketing in wholesaling, you're missing the biggest part of wholesaling. What do I mean by that? Let me put it up here. Wholesalers' primary target, their focus is marketing first. This is how we teach at freewholesaling.com. Now, a lot of people want to skip this part of the journey. God bless you. Some can, some get lucky, some just have, I don't know, they're in the right market. I can't speak on their behalf because I've never experienced it, but everybody I know, and I know a lot of people in this business that are true, authentic wholesalers. I mean, they mastered that craft and then added other skills after. They figured out marketing. And what do I mean by marketing? If we have to locate a small segment of the population that wants to get rid of their property, you can either do the wide market, which is MLS and all the other stuff, or you can go out and find these people. The only way you're going to find these people, especially when you start out, is you're going to have to master marketing. Now, here's the really cool part. It's not as hard as you think. It's going to take some intense energy. I got my first 10 deals from my own marketing. It's the truth. And guys, let me know in the comments, most people, everybody has to start somewhere. No matter, I don't care if you've been in the business 50 years or you just started today. We all have to start somewhere. Here's the truth. Most of us start with very little money. I know when I started wholesaling, I dug myself in a hole. I took all the wrong actions. I worked for corporate America. I got in over my head, and to commit $5,000 or $10,000 to like a marketing program, much less a marketing course or a wholesale course. I just didn't have it. Like I was broke. And I know a big percentage of people starting out in wholesaling are in that exact same shoes. Now, here's the funny part is if you think, I'll go, well, Rick, I got $50,000 sitting aside. I go, God bless you. Like the minute you announce it, it's someone's going to take it out of your pocket. And remember, I told you wholesalers are really good marketers. That's why the courses are so attractive. Hell, I think they're attractive. I'd buy them all. Like if it could solve exactly what they say it does. But the reality is wholesaling is hard work. So please take this lesson to heart. I'm telling you, I bleed this in my heart. I wear this on my sleeve. Wholesaling is always about marketing first. A lot of people think that they can skip this part. God bless you. I don't know how you're going to do it. Because if you go, well, I'm just going to go straight to direct mail, which some people do with moderate success, but you're probably going to freak out because you're going to pay 5 to 10 grand to get that mail out. And by the way, I believe fully in direct mail. It works incredible, but it's hard when people starting out when they're broke. They have no money. And most importantly, they have no experience in real estate, especially wholesaling and talking to sellers. It puts you at an extreme disadvantage when these calls start coming in. You're like, crap. It's just hard enough to answer my phone. And I get it. I get it. I've been there. And so many of you guys, you have to unwind your thinking the way your parents taught you, your colleagues, everyone else. The school system is, well, if I put 3, 5, 10 grand into marketing, that's a huge expense. And if it doesn't hit, I'm in trouble. And so you put this immense pressures on yourself. And I've seen people go broke over and over because they took someone's advice. Whose advice? It doesn't matter. It's just some of you just are not in that position to start. I didn't start out that way. Zach definitely didn't start out that way. I didn't give Zach any money. I said, you got to figure this, like you are going to market just the way I did. And trust me on this. If you master this, wholesaling gets a whole lot easier. Why? You know what the leads look like. You get a ton of practice and reps talking to them, and we teach you how to do it. How do we do it? We teach you how to pull government lists. Why? Some of the most motivated lists ever. A lot of people want to skip this process. I would have loved to skip this process. If I did, I wouldn't be talking to you right now because I would have had no money to get my first deal. I tried the realtor route. It's brutal. And we have to understand that. And we have to do this. So if I can teach my 16-year-old son, and by the way, teaching your own kids wholesaling is not as easy as it sounds. And you guys, any of you have kids and understand it. If you have parents, obviously you all do, you understand it. And I want to go on record that I practice exactly what I preach. So look at my son's success. You can debate like whatever you want. I get why people feel differently to a point, but remember, the only people who feel differently are the people selling a big course. And they're not my market, and I don't care. So people can sell whatever they want. They have the right. I would never, ever discourage that because I grew up in an environment of that. And I always questioned it. Why are you charging 25 grand when like it's on the like the back of a piece of paper? And I quickly found out everyone's course I got into was like, that's it, 25 grand, that's it. And it just, I learned you don't always get what you pay for, and it's not always represented. So everybody understand marketing is first. If you don't do this part, and especially if you have limited budget, where are you going to go? This is the reality. A lot of you want to skip this, and I get it. It's intimidating to do the phones. It's intimidating to do reverse driving for dollars, knocking on doors. But sometimes you're backed against the wall and you got to do what you got to do. Remember, our job is to help solve sellers' problems. End of story. If we understand that, marketing's first. If you skip marketing, you're going to have the fastest exit out of wholesaling ever. I don't care if you have money or not. If you have money, it's usually code that you're going to overpay for something because you don't know what you're doing. It happens in every business, and we understand that. So why do I always focus so much on marketing? Here's the truth. Everybody you pretty much see on the internet, I'm sure there's an exception or two, so I don't know everyone. Where did they all start from? Where? Do you really think people started out just doing big Google campaigns, giant direct mail budgets, pay-per-click, pay-per-lead? Absolutely not. Everybody started somewhere. Number one, it's scary, intimidating. Number two, it's wildly expensive. And number three, if you do not have the experience, and I agree 100% on this, to talk to people, the pressure of a $300 to $500 lead to get that deal closed, will most likely put you in a real pickle because you're going to commit to somebody and not know what you're doing. Why? Because you don't know what's out there. You don't understand how to comp and do all this stuff. The good thing is there's plenty of tools out there to help you out. We have to understand we all started from somewhere. Everybody, every wholesaler I know was like, I know most of the people when they started, I like the amount of stories like we could tell. I was one of them. I was terrible as I started out in wholesaling. My first deal, I think I made $1,200 and I thought I was going to lose my butt. And we all have a story like that. And if we all have a story like that, you have to understand if you started there, why don't you train me where you started? And somewhere there's been a disconnect. Now, I can only speak for myself and my business. I love wholesaling. I love doing JV deals with people that just got started to have a high energy level that lack the experience. It is an opportunity for me, and it is an opportunity for the JV person. And I do a 50-50 split. I never cap anyone, go, you can only make 10,000. I paid out 20, 30, $40,000. Why? Because the deal warranted it. And my name is everything. And if I said I'm going to do a 50-50, I'm going to do a 50-50, even though some of the deals I do a hell of a lot more work. That's just the deal. It's called integrity. That's what we do. So we all started from somewhere. So why is there such a disconnect? Like, we can't do this, we can't do that anymore. I'm like, I get it. Times have changed. Things are much tighter. They're only tighter because people abuse these situations. Now, as collective, the entire industry did it. There's nobody to blame, but all of us as wholesalers. So where do we go forward to this? We have to start somewhere. You have to start marketing. Here's the real coal, guys. Here's why I push the marketing so much. You have to survive your first year of wholesaling. You have to. It's an obligation. I can tell you when I started wholesaling, I go, man, if this doesn't work out, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I know a lot of you are in that position right now. And you have to understand is how are you going to survive your first year if, okay, so you can't afford to buy someone's expensive course. I understand that. Freewholesaling.com. It's an option. If you want to pay for it, pay for it. I'm fine with it. But I've always told you, if you get it for free from me and Zach, or you get someone paid, you're still going to have to do the same journey. Do you think they're going to do anything differently than I do? The reality is I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to go out there, hustle, and you're going to have to learn marketing. Anyone who wants you to skip this process. So what is your plan? So let's talk about this. No wholesaler started out doing PPC, PPL, and went directly to real estate agents. Maybe some with real estate agents. I tried it. It was a miserable, utter failure. I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know how to communicate to them. And I learned quickly after about 1 year, maybe 18 months to be realistic. I didn't understand the word escrow. I didn't understand the word proof of funds, like none of this crap. So like when I talked to realtors, I looked like an idiot, and rightfully so. I took it. Like, I got a hard school of knocks. And this is why I tell you, I mostly focus on people that get started in wholesaling. So let me ask you, if you're not going to do your own marketing, you're not going to pull government lists, you're not going to do driving for dollars because you're just, I'm way above that. So you're going to start out on PPL. By the way, PPL will change January 2025. Rightfully so, because it's been abused. It's just a matter of time. Like PPC, it's a Google product, like, so to speak, an internet thing. Listen, it works. There's no doubt about it. But the problem is the cost and the energy. In my opinion, a PPC requires a dedicated employee because you got to pay attention. And it requires a commitment in time in your business. Also, you have to understand what you're doing. And then you have to have the experience. And the only way you get the experience is through time to be able to successfully negotiate. So how much pressure you want from a lead from $100 from up to $3,000, depending on what market you're in. How are you going to sustain this right here? I know you hire a pay-per-click manager. I get it. There's plenty of them out there, but like, go find someone that's done pay-per-click for 5 consistent years. They are out there. They're pretty big time operators, and they'll all tell you the same thing. It is big budget, big employee expense, and you have to pay attention. There's no way I could responsibly tell anyone to start out as a new wholesaler in pay-per-click or pay-per-lead or go see real estate agents. This is why I passionately believe in what I teach, because all 3 of these is a path to failure in the beginning. I get it. You can always hire someone to do it, but if you're broke, we've already taken that away. And you, to try to learn this, you can't master wholesaling in this part right here. But what you can master is pulling the motivation list, the government list, driving for dollars, and find that first deal. Why? Right here. You have to survive your first year of wholesaling. The other one, you're looking at a 6 to 12 month path to get to profitability. Nobody wants to talk about profitability. If I spend 5 to 10 grand on a coach, I spend another 25 grand on like a marketing campaign, and I lose my first 3 or 4 deals because I overpaid for them. I didn't know what I was doing because I don't know how to negotiate. How much money are you going to make in the first year doing it? What's the net number? Me and Zach always focus on putting money in your pocket. We don't even excuse, like, you're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of heavy working. My point is here is all the people that want to educate you on wholesaling did not start out with this process, but now it seems to be the defunct process. And I'm just telling you, there's plenty of other options to do. I'm not going to get into like the detail, like cold calling is still well and alive, period. You can do door knocking, reverse driving for dollars, driving for dollars. We teach you how to use social media and everything. And some people say, listen, in a perfect world, if you had the experience and you can skip to this and you can afford it, knock yourself out. I'm fine with it. How many people started in wholesaling and have experiences? Occasionally you'll get someone from the PPC world or something like that. And if they're going to be your business partner, that is probably the exception to the rule. I'm perfectly fine with that. But it's still going to be an expense and there's still money. And remember, bringing in a business partner cuts everything in half. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. That's the truth. That's another little hidden gem I get. Be very careful with business partners. I've watched them come and go, especially in the wholesaling business. I've had multiple partners. It's just at some point, you're going to have a different vision. At some point, maybe a partner crosses a line and go, man, I don't want to go in that. They get in trouble. And you don't want anything to do with it. So be very careful who you pick. But guys, understanding, if we want to start in wholesaling, we have to survive that first year. You have to figure out how to market. Otherwise, you're going to have to dedicate a huge chunk of money and a huge chunk of time and understanding it. Even if you drop 50 grand on any of those campaigns I talked about, and you got the best instruction in the world, you're still going to have a learning curve. Now, if you can get somebody in your local market and they'll sit down with you and partner up with on your deals, and you're doing this process, the paid per lead, not the worst strategy in the world, but please do not try to do it yourself. In my opinion, it is the fastest way to get you out of this business. It's the truth. Nobody ever wants to talk about it. Wholesalers learn to market. That's what we do. We find the best leads possible and we move forward. Once we master marketing, we'll move on to the next phase, which I'll show you. Everybody get it? Let me check the comments, make sure we're all good. Perfect. Okay, I will answer them. Let's keep going here. Now, the next one is, here's another hard truth. You ready? You're going to get more no's than yeses. I don't know who sugarcoated this, guys, for you. If you think every time you meet with a seller, you're going to get like gravy leads and most of 80% are going to say yes, you're delusional. I don't know like who's, it's, you got to understand, even a batter in the Major League Baseballs, a high batting percentage is in the 300, basically the 30%. Honestly, it's going to be significantly lower in wholesaling. And some people just can't deal with it. I get it. If you're sensitive about this, I'm just telling you the truth up front. You're going to get rejected, which is a human problem because we all want to be accepted. And if you can't accept this fact, it's going to be hard. It's the truth. And a lot of people go, well, if I work with real estate agents or I do like pay per leads or pay per click, then my percentages will go up. Okay. Let me know how that works out. You're going to find a few probate. Do you think everybody fills out an online form that needs to sell their house? They don't. Some people don't even have computers. It's getting more and more frequent. Don't get me wrong. And the pattern's going there. But what do you think the cost of pay-per-click is going to be happening once pay-per-lead stops? I can even tell you people who got those leads, they just, like, there's a certain percentage who just want to skip the marketing thing. And like, honestly, I don't even argue it. But as a newbie, you don't have that choice. You're not going to have that luxury. And if you don't get this message, you're going to suffer. You see, I have this ability being in wholesaling 22 years. I can somewhat see the future. Now, I will tell you, there's been a lot of rapid changes, which we're going to talk about. But all I want you to do is get a life lesson out of this. Remember, it's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth and decide what you want to do with it. Now, this one's going to get interesting and you got to pay attention on this one. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Let's see here. I'm going to put up a stat. It's truthful. Gurus, and my definition of guru is someone tells a high ticket course. They're not all bad. I agree. But gurus did not invent wholesaling in 2013. That's what most people want to like make you believe. They didn't. Like I coined this phrase, or I coined this technique, I coined this contract. Guys, let's get brutally honest here. Let's just break this down. Okay. Then a lot of you guys will go just like this. Well, Rick Ginn invented it in 2003. No, I didn't. I started in 2003. That's it. That's my claim to fame. I just started in 2003. I'm just like a lot of you right now that are on the fence or trying to make a decision. Is wholesaling right for me? I struggle with this decision horribly, but I'm going to be honest with you. My deck was stacked, meaning I had 12 years of failures because I didn't have the guidance in my life. And you know what? I don't regret it because it makes me the man I am today. It is the reason I have two wonderful children and wildly successful beyond my wildest dreams. And it's because a lot of things didn't go the way I wanted in my life. And a lot of us go like, oh, my childhood, my dad was this, my mom did this, my sister is this. You did not have a choice. I give you permission to release that stress of everything that's happened up to this point in your life. But I will tell you this, it took me longer to learn this. Going forward, you're responsible as an adult for everything going forward. I was absolutely miserable in my job. I just felt I wasn't going to make any more money. And I was living the average American lifestyle, which was killing me. Great credit score, though, pointless. So Rick Ginn did not invent wholesaling in 2003. Far from it. I was considered progressive at the time, but the foundation was already laid for me. I just took it to another level. And as you see, when my son comes in the business, he takes it to another level. He helped me do things I thought I would never do. Why? Because that's what us old school guys do, period. It's what we do. And you have to understand that. I did not invent wholesaling in 2003. If people could just understand that, don't call me I'm not the OG of wholesaling. Anyone who claims they're the OG of wholesaling, like they'll even make I got it from somebody else. We're all fine with it. Our job is to pass down information to help future generations. That's it. Now, is it rapidly changing? I agree it is. Do we have government influences? Yes, we do. But like you understand, they're in every phase of our life. Like we all know what happened a few years ago when the pandemic happened. It was like insanity. And so am I surprised what's happening? Not really, but like you got to understand, I don't make a lot of videos and stuff about what I just don't like or what I'm really upset about because I've learned. I don't know if I get wiser. Sometimes it's debatable. The energy I give something, if it does not help someone get a deal, why would you bother doing it? And that's how I try to dictate every video going forward. I've learned over time. I used to engage everybody. And what's the point? Everyone's entitled to opinion. The bottom line is Rick did not invent wholesaling. The gurus didn't invent it in 2013. They make it like, oh my God, we figured out how to cold calling's been around forever. So I want to show you something that is going to blow you away. What if I could show you the OG of wholesaling? Like, do you want to know legit who it is? Because here's the problem in wholesaling is everybody wants to make a claim that I'm this, I'm that. And like, that's great. And you know what? Most people that help other people get deals are actually doing something positive by passing down information. We all know that we have an expiration date. And the sooner you realize that and the sooner you accept it, the more quality of life you'll live. Dude, I'm 55. I know I only got so much time. I'm going to make it the best ride it possibly can. I want to stay in wholesaling. I love it. You don't have to retire from wholesaling. That's the beauty of it. Is it changes? What if I told you in 2003, I felt the same pressures you guys feel today? I just thought they were restrictive back then, but it's all relative to what your tolerance is. Because a few states impose some laws, you all act like wholesaling is just going away. It's not. As long as people have the ability to buy and sell their own real estate, it's always going to be here. I just don't see that right being taken away. Some of the marketing and the stuff, yeah, I agree. Some of it needs to be cleaned up, but I can't police everybody. And do you think I trust the government policing everyone? Do you know how many realtors are indicted every year? It's obscene. Like, but they're licensed. No. Here's the bottom line, guys. If you break the law and you do a major crime, you're going to jail. That's it. It's not a wholesaling law. It's a human law. Fraud, forgery, all this stuff. It's just wrong. And it should never be tolerated in any business, but it still goes on. Why? I guess it's just human nature. We get into quantum mechanics, physics. We can get into the matrix about it. We can get into, You can get into religion about it. Like, it's never going away. We all agree with it. In a perfect world, we just kumbaya and hopes nobody does it. You can give them all the rules and the regulations. Bad people are going to do bad things. And I do believe they need to be called out before it gets really bad. And man, I went through that entire short sale fiasco back when the entire market melted down. And I thought it was crazy back then. And I'm like, man, the amount of contracts changing hands, you have to be responsible as a wholesaler. If you write a contract, be very wary on like a short sale. I've been preaching this like forever because I saw the crap that went on. The amount of games that's played on it, it's just, I don't think there's any room in wholesaling anymore. I after 2012, I'm like, I don't want any part of this, because and here's where they killed short sales, 90-day deed restriction, and you can't resell it for more than 120% of what you initially bought it for. Why would you want to do a deal like that? I just said, hey, I'm not going to fight that. And here's the thing. Oh, we need to fight back. The problem is they're U.S. government-backed securities, Fannie and Freddie Mac. You're never going to win against those. You're never, ever going to win. Plus, when you have to sign a disclaimer saying you don't do like all these things, it pretty much takes you out. So if you read the rules of the game, we understand it. So who wants to see the OG of wholesaling? Like, I need a little suspense here, because I didn't believe this when I first saw it. I actually found this 14 years ago, and it's a really cool story. But let me, you guys put in the comments, I tell you what right now, if you guess who it is, I will personally give a phone call and spend an hour with you. And honestly, I'll just go, man, you are brilliant. Now, I'm going to let you know, you can't do an internet search because it doesn't exist there. It's that far back. We're talking original OG of wholesaling. So I already showed it once before, so let me just get back to doing it here. You ready? This is going to be cool. Well, let me put up the graphic and then I'll show it to you. I already showed it to you because I have to keep doing this, because keep people saying here's a name. His name's Josiah Caldwell. He's the first American documented as a wholesaler 187 years ago, with 100 transactions in a very, very short amount of time. Now, how do I know this? Boom. It's right there. So it is over in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. in the American History Museum. Josiah, I call him Josh Caldwell, was a real estate entrepreneur that took part in over 100 property transactions. Now, 1838, guys, a long time, 100 transactions, unheard of back then. I mean, you want to talk about OG stuff. This stuff is nuts. So let's give homage to the first documented person. We're going to call OG. Why don't you do the research and find out who is the real OG? But I've seen 10 people claim they're the OG of wholesaling, which honestly, I don't care, but it's cool. I love people that have a lot of history in wholesaling. And I think anyone who's lasted the business, what's the mark? Honestly, I think 20 years goes, okay, dude, you're all in. Like, if you make it past 2 years, I'm impressed. You make it to 10 years, you got skills. I'll give it to you. You got skills. The question is, where do you go from there? And I'm going to give some advice to make sure we help each other out on that and we understand that. So Ben Franklin. So guys, look it up, because I'm just telling you, it's already documented. It's in there. Why? So let me tell you, what do you think Josiah's gripes were back in 1838? Oh my God. I wish I could find this guy's journal, because here's the funny thing is history rhymes. It repeats, doesn't quite repeat, but it rhymes. If this is why you guys should all keep a journal, you can figure out what's going inside someone's head and have a conversation, even if they're not alive anymore. So if you want to pass some stuff down to your kids and stuff, it's valuable stuff. Just go to Marcus Aurelius. He kept an entire diary of everything. And he was the most powerful king in all of the world back in the Roman Empire. And he talked about how hard it was to get out of bed every morning. So it's not just me. It's not just you. We all have the same fears, doubts, concerns, and you have to understand that going into it. So now that we know who the OG is and we can pay homage to it, if anyone ever tells you they're the original, just go, dude, you're gonna have to go back 187 years. And like, there's been waves of it. In the 20s and 30s, there were some really spectacular investors. The 50s had a good wave. The 70s was really, really the creative financing effort. And if we go into the 80s with the Carlton Sheets and all those people, but it's so funny. Some of the modern day teachers, like, they gain amnesia on like where, like, we've all, listen, there's people thousands of years before that taught Josiah. Like, we passed the skill down. We are just custodians of wholesaling, and we have to pass it down. Not everyone's going to agree with it. I'm okay with it. I get my audience understands what I do. I focus on the person that gets started in wholesaling, that doesn't have a lot of money, that needs to go out and find their first deal. They can't pay for a big price course. They can't pay paid per leads. And honestly, they don't have the experience to do it anyway. But like nobody does. This is the secret in the business. If you do that journey of marketing and understand it, you will master wholesaling. If you skip it, what happens when they outlaw PPL? Okay, I'll just ship. I'll shift to PPC. That's great. Then you'll do direct mail. Listen, direct mail works. Anyone that tells you otherwise, it means they're not a very good wholesaler. Direct mail works. It just requires consistency, paying attention to your data, and working with sellers to solve problems. So let's move on. The next clue, and this is a big one. A lot of you guys like to go out there and go, I don't know if people teach this or not, because I don't look at everyone's programs, but I'm going to hire this person and we're going to set up a cold call team in another country. And I'm going to give them 50,000 pieces of data a week and I'm going to get deals that way. Hey, have you ever made a cold call? No. How are you going to manage a cold call team? Oh, well, so-and-so says they can do the whole thing for me. They're just going to give me an invoice. I go, really? The whole thing's just done for you. Like, honestly, don't you feel like a hammer coming on the back of your head? It's never like, so find out what their success rate with their current clients are. And if you find out it's like a 95% failure ratio, you're just going to be another stat. You see, it sounds so perfect, right? You'll manage all the cold callers. You just give me an invoice, you'll handle everything, and motivated sellers leads just pour in my box. Sign me up. Dude, I've signed up for all of them. There's a reason I don't promote it. I don't talk about it because it doesn't work. And they're all owned by usually wholesalers that haven't quite made it in their business and they're trying to offset their costs by selling yours. Not a bad strategy. But they never ever last. Show me a cold call center that's the last 10 years. I'll wait. You guys can't show it because it doesn't exist. The reality is, remember, I told you wholesalers are really good marketers. If you think you can just plug in 5 incredible cold callers and they're just going to feed you leads, I would have 100 of them working for me right now. And it's a challenge. Now, the other thing is, well, I'll manage them myself. How are you going to manage them? You have no experience. You have no idea what KPIs to do. I'm going to tell you, it's a challenge in my business to do it. I'm not a big fan of having millhouse cold calls. It's hard. Did it used to be easier? Yes. I believe 2017, 18 was the tipping point when everybody taught the method. I don't even blame it because it worked. But when you go all in on something and push a short-term fad, it always ends. It always does. And that's the 22 years I've learned. If it's like a fad and you run, it's going to end. So why don't you just do the hard work up front, learn the fundamentals of wholesaling, and skip this like yo-yo ride you go on. So like now everyone who's hooked on pay per lead, they've got to switch. They either got to double down on pay per click or they got to figure out direct mail. Now, I will tell you, direct mail is a core fundamental of wholesaling. Why? Because it's worked since the 50s, 40s, 30s, whatever it is. And it's legal, 100% legal, compliant, and it's scalable. The only thing in question is the message you send. For a while, there was people sending out like threatening messages and the postmaster dealt with them. So the postmaster knows how to police that part of it. So you have to ethically bribe people to call you. And whoever gets the most calls wins. Is that a fine line? Yeah, a lot of people will cross it. I don't. What's the difference between sending somebody an offer, whatever percentage you want to set, it doesn't matter, and they induce a phone call and you qualify the lead, see what's going on in the house, take a look at it, and then you put in a lower offer. There's nothing wrong with it because realtors will tell people, hey, your neighbor's house just sold for $399 and probably get the same amount or higher. They're licensed, they're insured. How the hell do they know that? To me, like, what's the difference in what we do it as wholesalers? So I believe your message has to be pass a moral and ethical message. I have no problem with that. I do not do final notice, any of that stuff. It's ridiculous. But one of the reasons I came out with the ROS postcard, you know why? Because people used to say, don't ever share your number with a seller before you do. People on the internet right now that they just got amnesia because that's how they taught it forever from their previous bosses or partners or whatever you want. And now they have amnesia about it. So I just said, listen, if that's your biggest complaint, let's just give them the number. It's just an API. It spits it out. But you know what? I learned through the best marketers in the business that as long as you can ethically bribe people to call you. When I say bribe is give them a reason to call you. What's the reason mean? Marketing is around curiosity. You got to keep it correct, though. And then if they call you, then it's fair game. And then it is a private decision. If they want to sell it to you, want to buy it, how you make the offer. Nobody governs realtors. A realtor, you think it's fair a realtor has a listing for 1 year? And listen, I hate memorandums. Like, trust me, I think they're wrong. I think there are special circumstances and you need to involve a lawyer when you do it. And I've had to done a few for full disclosure, but these are people like left me at the closing table with expenses, obligations, and we had a lot on the line with it. And we try to talk them off the ledge as long as we can. But there comes a point where I said, lawyer, what should I do? He's like, I would do this. I go, can you handle the whole thing? Charge me $1,500 and file it. I hate them because you're always going to get an awkward phone call somewhere. You might be tomorrow, it might be 10 years. And if you did it wrong, they're coming after you, man. It's called defamation of title. So let me get back to what we were saying on it. When it comes to outsourcing, as a beginner wholesaler, if you haven't done it yourself first, don't outsource it. It's a simple rule. I go over this all the time in my Flip with Rick program. People go, well, I found this program and they're going to handle all the cold calling. And I just get, and then I go, okay, and I go, listen, I strongly advise against it, but you're your own decision maker. I don't make anybody do anything. I just give advice. And I think you're going to regret this decision. I think you're going to lose about $10,000 to $15,000 and you're going to be deeper in the hole when you come back to me. 9 times out of 10, that's the conversation I have. Guys, I don't make up this advice. It's from a ton of failed experiences. And here's the thing is, it's mostly from my failed experiences. And then you guys just recertify what's going on with it. And we have to understand. Okay, let's keep going. We got a lot to get through. Here's a good one. Sellers and buyers will lie to you. Nobody in wholesaling is ever going to argue this. But here's the thing is, it's a real estate problem. It's not just a wholesaling problem. The question is, are you going to lie back to your sellers? Now, here's the problem with this. You can't get all offended when a seller lies to you because more than half of them too will lie to you off the bat. Either it's about the condition or their circumstances, and it is a mechanism already built in. Let me put this up here. Sellers will lie. It's a self-protection mechanism. Let me ask you this. When somebody calls you right off the street and you got like one of those days, dude, where like, I don't know, your spouse is rough on you. You just lost a big deal and somebody sideswiped your car. It's not a good day. And like, man, I got to get this house sold. And what they want to do is represent the best light to try to get it sold. But you don't know about all the issues that going on with people. And people are nothing more than like issues. I've always told you in wholesaling, you have real estate was just a mathematical problem. There are challenges in trying to get the right information about it. But they lied. Like, I just accept they lie to me. Like, it's part of it and I don't get offended. Now, I start to correct them when I see a pattern. But part of underwriting any deal is, yes, you got to get the basic information, but you have to have conversations with people. If you can, we all start out with scripts. I'm the first to admit that. But the scripts eventually have to turn into flowing conversations. Have you ever talked to your friend and you're like, hey, how are you doing today? What did you do today? What are your goals and aspirations? Dude, what are you doing? Like, so if you don't have a conversation like you have with your friends, with your sellers, you're not doing it correctly. You probably signed up for someone's sales training. And listen, what you call it, like, I don't care. I get the best deals in wholesaling by connecting with people. End of story. If you do not have a connection, you can still get great deals, but you're what I call a transactional wholesaler. You got to be able to think on your feet and talk to people. How do you do that? Through conversations. Each conversation has to push a little bit further to get to the truth. And guys, sometimes the conversations fail. Like, that's the truth. Nobody bats 100% in this business, and we have to understand that. So, okay, the next one, big one. Your personal feelings don't count in wholesaling. If you get hurt easily, if you're sensitive, you're going to struggle in this business. Can you overcome it? You can, but it will take work. It will not fix overnight. A lot of your personal ego, your brand, it comes over when you come into wholesaling. And a lot of the stuff that fails you in the beginning, don't be shocked if it fails you in wholesaling. And you're going to have to work on this. How do you do it? Number one, recognize it. And number two, address it. Tell yourself the truth. Go, I get upset when people reject me and I don't know how to get over with it. That's a truth statement. The next thing is, how do I deal with it? And here's how I look at wholesaling. I expect a 90% rejection rate. I'm okay with it. But here's the reality. A lot of you want to skip that and you just want yeses. That's why you overpay on your contracts, because you just want a quick result. and you're going to wind up working for free if you do that. Do the hard work up front. Everything else will get easy. Here's the next statement. Ready? Marketing will beat sales in the beginning of your wholesale business. I stand by this. What do I mean? If you put more energy into marketing, finding the right motivated sellers, people off market, direct to seller that need to sell, all you have to do is educate and offer them a solution. But a lot of the industry says you have to be a master salesman. I have to do sales training. Listen, I come from a sales training environment. It is useless in the beginning in wholesaling. In fact, most of you don't know how to negotiate. I know that for a fact. I was you. Do you know how I got over it? I just put in the reps. And I started and I made a ton of mistakes up front. And then as I got really good, I switched over and I scaled my business through some additional paid leads, which we'll talk about. So I just want you to understand. In the beginning, marketing will crush any salesman, because if a salesman is just talking to people that want to sell their house, you're just going to get marginal deals at best, and you're just going to go for yes to feed your ego. Whereas a marketing person finds people in probate, people in pre-foreclosure, people with tax delinquency, and they just want to get the house sold. As long as you're kind to them, you solve their problem, and they trust you and they believe it's a fair price, then it's good. How you get there, who cares? Listen, realtors do whatever they have to do to sign a listing, and they'll obligate people for a year and ask a realtor after 30 days, goes, this isn't working out. They go, well, you got to pay me a marketing fee. And that's the licensed industry. I think it's crazy. And I'm just talking about like the whole realtor thing. Like it's a licensed industry, and they do what people are complaining what wholesalers do now. They do it legally and they can enforce it. And I listen, I don't file memorandums, guys. You have no idea what you're doing. Honestly, there is a backlog. If you don't perfect it and talk to a lawyer, you can get sued for it. I'm just telling you. So marketing will beat sales in the beginning of your wholesale business. Now, eventually it'll switch over the other way. I agree. But in the beginning, you have no money. You can't pay a $5,000, $10,000 course. I get it. So you're going to have to get some instruction. By the way, at freewholesaling.com, we give you full instruction, and you don't have to worry about any of it. Meaning it's there, because the biggest reason why you guys fear it is like, what if it doesn't work out? Well, why don't we switch the conversation? Like, what if it does work out? And you do this. And I want you to understand, you want to get it done. You've got to figure it out, and we want to get it done. So if we understand that, I lost my screen here. Guys, this statement is absolutely huge. Marketing will beat sales every time in the very beginning. If you don't believe me, try it. Give me the absolute best salesman and let him rip through MLS leads, and give me someone with tenacity and persistence and a great attitude that understands a marketing plan that somebody showed them. Dude, I'll run you around the block with that. Why? Because all I have to do is find the person that has to sell a house. And on average, about 2% of all houses in the United States, they need a sale right now. The problem is, are you going to chase the other 98%? One's a huge time waster, one's not. Next one, real controversial statement. Use social media or get used by it. Now, I know I'm using this platform right now, so I'm a little bit guilty of it. But what I'm saying is, if all you do is scroll, and if you don't know this, do me a favor right now. Pick up your phone, and if you have a phone that can tell you what your screen time is, start looking at that data, because if you're spending 2 or 4 hours on your phone, you could be spending that marketing and wholesaling. But Rick says this, Zach says this, somebody says this, somebody says that. Dude, cut out the noise. Like, at the end of the day, if you have tons of alerts on your phones, I come in my office, I put my phone and I just lock it down. Why? Because it just vibrates and shakes all day. They'll figure it out. I promise you. There's a couple key people in my life, which I'll answer. Past that, you'll figure it out. So take this the warning. Use social media or it's going to use you, and it's only going to get worse. It's just the truth. I'm talking about the amount of time you guys spend scrolling on it. And I know I'm kind of self-indicting myself here, but it is the truth. I've been on the other side of this coin, and you've got to like flip it around. I'll use social media to get my message out there. I don't care. I'm shameless about it. Why? Because the more people I can help to change their lives, I'm fine with it. I want to pass down wholesaling to future generations. I don't think wholesaling is not going to die. Come on. Like that's, do we need to clean stuff up? Absolutely. How we do it is the matter of different opinion. And it's okay to have different opinion. It really is. In fact, I'll tell you this. I beat to my own drum. I do not like, I love everybody in this industry. Like there's really good information out there, but like I just we all see what happens when we all like everybody wants to take the path of least resistance. Hey, let's get together, let's do that. And people always look at the guy or the gal that goes in the opposite direction a little bit and go, man, either that person's crazy or they know something. We all know about even when we talk in politics, we just had a history lesson on this. We just had a history lesson. They want to put someone in jail for like 200-300 years. And now it's about to be the president of the United States. And now everybody loves him. So here's what I've learned in the whole internet world. In the beginning, when you start wholesaling, everybody loves you. Why? You're doing JVs, you're teaching people for free. You get up at RIA things, everybody loves you. This is 100% true. Everybody loves you. Nobody will debate me. Then you start running a real business, and then you start making it bigger, and then you have to filter your time. And they're like, hey, what's the deal with Rick? All of a sudden he's gotten serious. Dude, I had a lot of fun my first 4 years wholesaling. I had more friends than I knew what to do with. Everybody gave me advice. And then somebody, people would start selling this. Hey, and then back in those days, we would like share a course. Hey, do this, do that. Those days are over. Everybody sees through it like a million miles. And there were entire like launch. They had these big launches. And a lot of these companies either got sold or they're completely restructured. And listen, they knew how to use social media when it came around. And then all of a sudden, when they got like, they did something different, they got hated. And I've learned when that happens, like people just don't agree with you. And that's fine. You're never going to make everybody happy in life. Boy, I should put that. Just take that one. That's a freebie through. If you try to make everybody happy, you'll just be miserable yourself. And then they got hated. And then in the end, they always get loved. So you got to watch the entire cycle of people. I've watched people come and go so much out of wholesaling. I know I have a pretty good idea who's going to last and who's not. Now, sometimes I'm wrong. Some people surprise you, and we'll get into that. Next one is just no crying in wholesaling. If you cry, you're done. You can't do it. Do you guys understand that? You cannot cry in wholesaling. Now, go in your closet, shed a tear, and come back. Here's what I mean by crying. If you're going to go out and complain and make excuses, it's so hard to cold call, just this, or somebody did this and it hurts my feelings. Number one, nobody cares about your feelings. Like you're the only person who cares about them, you and your close-knit family. And honestly, they probably get tired of it. Let's be brutally honest. You can't cry. And I've done this. It's like, I might as well just call this confession of a 22-year wholesaler. Crying gets nothing accomplished. So if you have to do it in an isolated area. I'm not telling you to hide your feelings. You guys know I'm a stoic, but there comes a point where you just need to take a moment, shed a tear, and go back to doing what you're doing. Because if you continue that crying, you will never get anything done in wholesaling. I don't care if you cry on the internet, you cry on like post. And by the way, guys, I talk about social media. I will tell you this. Do not sit there and reply to everybody's comment. I'm okay if your name's tagged in and you just go, hey, listen, what's up? But like some of you guys, just all you do is post. It's ridiculous. And keep in mind when you like hiding behind like these comments and stuff like that, it's just ridiculous. Like what I'm saying is you're wasting your time. Nobody cares about your opinion. Like some of you spend like 30 minutes typing stuff, like move on. If it's not valid, you're wasting your time when you do it. So you have to understand that. Now, here we go. Now we're going to get into the heart of some of this stuff. This is good. God, here we go. Okay. Talk about negotiations. Learning negotiations takes time and lots of practice, which means also self-improvement outside of wholesaling. I'm just here to tell you, you're going to have to work on yourself. So we master marketing first. I never will deny that. That is just everybody I've ever met that ever started in wholesaling. Go find anybody on the internet and ask them how they started, every one of them. True wholesalers. I love when people say, I've been in the business 20 years. Nah, but you weren't wholesaling 20 years. So if you want to talk about full disclosure, if you were a realtor for the first 5, 10, 15 of it, just say it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay when people switch teams. You know which side I'm on. I'll never hide it. In fact, if they were such a good realtor, they just would have stayed on that side. They just felt wholesaling is a better opportunity. And I agree with that statement. So we master marketing first. When we get the reps in, we get lots of practice, meaning you look in the mirror and practice. The first technique, you go, Rick, what are you talking about? Get rid of your ums and buts. It's distracting and it shatters your seller's confidence in you because I don't think you know what you're talking about. Because it sounds like the first time you're talking to them. And a lot of you, it is. And I understand that. Practice in private, get rewarded for it in public. I think Michael Jordan came up with that. Hope he doesn't sue me for it, but you get rewarded for what you do in private in public. Same thing in wholesaling. You think it's any different? The thing is, in the beginning, if I market and find someone like a probate that needs to sell and I connect with them, I tell them the truth and I give them an offer, how I get there is regardless. Like it's the amount of games realtors play. Do you think if it was up to me, realtors would have to list property for an appraised price? They would never accept that ever. And why would a wholesaler? If I used the reason I teach the go for no method, because it's used in other businesses, I'd like to say I invented the phrase. I just applied it best to wholesaling. Why? Number one, most of you don't know how to negotiate when you start off. It'll change over time if you do what I have in this post. Number two, the go for no takes stress off of the negotiation. Why? Because you can get quicker to the seller's counteroffer and the end result is better for the seller and you. People are like, hey, you play games with it. I go, dude, I'm going to tell you, if you're married, you have kids, sometimes you have to do a dance to get the final result. Realtors do this 100% of the time. They're licensed, they're insured, they're bonded behind a broker, and they are managed through license. So wait a minute. See, sometimes you get wisdom over time. If you understand, you have to do things to get to the ends of a means. And the thing is, do you want to drag and negotiate on? So let me ask you, do you just go, hey, Mr. Seller, give me your bottom line price right now? That's what we all want to say. It doesn't work. I was taught in wholesaling, you know what my line was? Here's my favorite. If I made an all cash offer and closed quickly, what's the best price you could give? And then when they give me the price, I go, can't you do better? Terrible. I didn't even like it at the time. I thought it was terrible. And if we understand that, it doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you do it legally and ethically, I don't see a problem with it. There is no problem with it because the reality is I'm just trying to get to the bottom line a little bit quicker because there's a certain amount of people at that point. I kind of know what the situation is. Hopefully you've had a conversation with them, and a conversation just means you go deeper with people. And in the beginning, you don't know how to do it. You don't have, and listen, you can go take the most advanced sales training. You're only going to get it through reps, experience, and practice. That's why we push so much on being a marketer and going after government lists, driving for dollars, all that fun stuff. Why? Because this is a journey in wholesaling. And if you don't figure this out, when you switch to paid per leads, you're going to get killed. You know, there's more people who fail on paid leads than succeed. No one's going to tell you that one because it's a dirty secret. But a lot of people will profit on you on the dream. You don't have to market. I just don't believe in it. It's just the truth. If you get the experience and you get I always tell people, get the 5 deals, then we can have a conversation. And I believe there's better methods than just going to high-end paid leads like direct mail. Why? It's proven, it's consistent, it's 100% legal, and you can manage it. Pay-per-click it's advanced. It's a lot, and it takes time, and it takes energy and money. So take this one to point right here. Now, this one, now I'm really going to get into, okay, let's go to it. Ego is always the downfall of most wholesalers. Guys, I've been doing this 22 years. Hear me. I don't care if you started today or you got 20 years experience in this business. I've been a victim of this. The minute you think you are better, bigger, and smarter than everybody in wholesaling, you're done. I used to be this person in my 30s. I thought I had it all mastered after 7 years of wholesaling. And a lot of events happened in my life that humbled me. And I've learned it happens to most wholesalers. The number one thing, I just repeat to me, I want to get you to your first deal, get you to 5 deals, and then get your wholesaling business scaled. I admit deal 1 to 5 is a lot of work. I don't hide it from you. But what are your options? If you don't have money, you can't afford to buy a course, and you can't afford expensive marketing programs. Are you just left to the curb? Because I believe in people like you. It's just the truth. And I don't know if the entire community supports that anymore. And that part, it bothers me. I'm not going to lie to you. So people's ego will always be the downfall in whole. Do you know how many people I've watched come and go in wholesaling? And anyone who's been in this business 20 years, they'll tell you there is a huge Everybody looks good. Who survives? Everybody looks good. Do you know the amount of wholesalers that started out wholesaling? Here's how you know if you have a real wholesaler, and I'll give credit to anyone, even if I love you or don't. If you survived in this business and you focused on wholesaling and you didn't go like do this other gimmick, let me get it. If you didn't switch to Forex, you didn't sell like Amazon stores, you didn't leave the country, props. Why in the hell would you why would you leave wholesaling if you were so good at it? I would never leave. This business is rewarding. It's got some headaches, but in the long run, it is worth it. And the thing is, the one thing I've learned, people just get these huge egos. And here's what happens to get a big ego. And I'm talking from my own personal experience. When your ego gets big, you're always right. You won't listen to any feedback and you're stuck in a mode. And when that happens, you can't learn. And if you can't learn, how can you grow yourself and do it? So you have to understand that ego is the killer. Do you know ego is the number one thing I train my students on, how to take advantage of wholesalers that think they're bigger and badder than everyone else? We get on your cash buyers list. Those of you that show your HUDs all over the internet, we call every one of your cash buyers and lock them down. It's free information. I'm very careful with the information, the privacy of you can't just be flashing everything. And the problem is the egos get so big, it overrides the wholesaling industry. And my only message, I want everyone to hear it. I believe everybody has the opportunity of wholesaling. If we set tremendous barriers where you have to only do paid per leads, be licensed, whatever it is. And that's the government pushing that. It's not, nobody wants that in wholesaling, but we're trying to navigate through it. Is it really fair? Like, you got this incredible opportunity. You could do whatever you want. And now you're telling me it's not available anymore. Does it need to be cleaned up? Yes. But the method of how we get there, why don't we start policing ourselves? Like, if we can't help people police themselves, listen, realtors are licensed. If I wrote up like how many people go to jail as a realtor, it's staggering. Bad people are going to do bad things. I don't think we're ever going to stop that. Can we curtail it? Maybe. But we're going to discourage a lot of young, excited people getting into wholesaling because they don't have money, they don't have the resources, and they don't have a money for a course. Just my opinion. But I want to help anybody out that can do it. And the one thing me and Zach do is you cannot knock. We offer everyone a path to get into wholesaling with absolutely no money. And to be fair, there are other wholesalers that train out there that have free stuff. The problem is there's limitations, and it's always some sort of upsell. It's their right and prerogative to do that. I don't knock it. Have I built a brand around it? I just remember, everybody goes one way, and me and Zach go another. So you just saw how that worked out in history. I do not get pressured. I do not get forced into follow herds or anything like that, because usually dying business models, they all go the exact same direction. But once again, I am 100% for wholesaling. Anything that would make this industry better, I'm a phone call away, period. I love this business. But the ego's the biggest thing. Everybody brags. They start showing, hey, I look at this fancy car I got from wholesaling. Who cares? Your ego is your ability to make yourself right, make yourself important, and you don't listen to anyone when your ego's engaged. Once again, self-experience, and then I watch others around me. If you keep those boisterous attitudes forever, people will take advantage of you, because ego blinds you. It blinded me in my 30s, and I decided going forward is probably not the best way to do it. So, and yes, typically it is a younger person's role as you get wiser and stuff happens to you in life, but you have to balance it. So when you find yourself just trying to win a conversation, and I talk to you married people too, I've learned winning a fight with your significant other is going to cost you a ton in the long run. Sometimes you just got to agree to help the other person out and move forward. And I believe we're at that crossroads in wholesaling. I want to help out. I don't care about people's age, and I love that wholesaling never discriminates anybody. And I love this business. But I will tell you, ego is the number one thing. I see more people taken out in wholesaling with their ego. It's absolutely crazy, because this leads me to the next thing. If you can, so Rick, how do I do this? How do I fix it? When that ego starts to roar up, you got to find a way to calm it down, because it's going to cause you chaos in your life. It's like that alter personality you got built inside yourself. And listen, I've spent a lot of time studying. So if you want to do a deep dive, do this. First of all, find out what the difference between an emotion and a feeling is. It's a deep read. And like, Rick, what does hell have to do with wholesaling? Because you need to understand there is a difference between a reaction which is what we typically go for in wholesaling. Why our sellers react. I do go for no, I do it for reaction. Why? Because I can access what the truth is in the back of their mind by triggering them. I didn't invent this. I copied it from somebody else. Why? Because it works. Watch a reaction. Tell someone they lied to you. And then when they don't lie, they start screaming and go, I would never lie. You're getting their gut reaction. Now, here's the difference is if you know the difference between emotion and feeling, you have to calm yourself. To do a response, you have to gather yourself, have an education, and you have to guide and go forward and give a response. If you react to everybody, it means your ego's taken over and you're in trouble. And once you notice your ego takes over, it sucks because the ego is going to go for the quickest self-gratification it can go for. And in wholesaling, you're going to end relationships on it. You're going to get in hot water. You're going to do things you're not supposed to do because you want to win at all costs. And that's what ego does. And I hate it. And I'm just telling you, I've learned a lot about this. Do the research between feeling and emotion. It's like, I always thought they were like, I got a feeling and emotion. No, they're different. And what happens is a feeling is something you feel right now. An emotion is based on a past experience. And if they stack up enough, it messes with your ego. And what your ego is like your persona of who you think you are. You're not even close to it. And that's the problem with an ego. You try to protect yourself and it gets you in problems. So here's where I go with this. The why: you have to kill your ego. And when you feel it rising up, push it back down because it's going to go for the short-term gratification, but you're going to have long-term pain. You don't believe me? You ever gotten in a screaming match with your spouse, with your kids, with your parents? It goes nowhere. I actually tried a method once when I had an altercation, and I'm not going to use names, but we decided, because we were working on business deals together, instead of screaming at each other, I was young, to be fair, we would text each other our issues. And then you just can't scream in a text unless you do it in all caps. Then that's your ego kicking in again. So I always say this: do you want to be a marathon wholesaler or a sprinter wholesaler? Here's the difference. A marathon is going to have to lose their ego eventually, or it's going to take them out. A sprinter always looks good in the short term. Why? All they do is focus on their views. Look at me. I'm better. Look at this deal did, how much I made. Look at this car I bought. Dude, that car is going to be a pain in the ass in a year or two down the road. And they won't scratch that itch much longer. And so I always talk about being a marathon wholesaler. A marathon wholesaler will make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. So the short-term sacrifice in wholesaling right now is you doing your own marketing and finding deals so we can get some money in your pocket to give you some tools to scale your business. If that sounds like something that you want to entertain, freewholesaling.com. That's what me and Zach are all about. And I get it. It rubs some people the wrong way. It only rubs people that have high-end courses that are selling in old school techniques. Now, don't get me wrong. They're entitled to do it. I'm never going to deny that right. I'm just going to go out to the market and give you guys options, because you have two options on how you decide how this goes down. Number one, who do you spend your time with? And number two, where do you spend your money? That's the bottom line decision you have to make at the end of the day, that everybody has to make. And if you understand that, you can do anything you want. So make sure you understand what you're getting into and you understand how to do it. Now, let's keep going here. I got a few more. This one: getting your real estate license will not protect you in wholesaling. Now, this is somewhat of a custom. You have to customize the statement. You got to know what state you're in. I'm not going to give blanket statements, but I've seen some people go, Rick, I got my license, I'm covered. I'm like, covered for what? Why? Well, I was told then I won't have like a district state attorney or something come after me. I'm like, yeah. Listen, what do you plan on doing? He goes, well, I want to do assignment of contracts, some double closes. I go, what are you concerned about? Are you in a state where it's like, it's required by law? And if you make that decision, I'm okay with it. But are you just taking it because somebody told you to? Like, what is the protecting factor? I want to know what it is. Well, I'll be considered a professional then. I go, okay. Do you understand what you have to do? Full disclosure every time, like bandit signs, postcards, business cards, website, everything. And a big portion of our clients don't want to deal with real estate agents. It's just the truth. That's why they're contacting us. I'm not against it, but you think listen, here's the bottom line. If you have your real estate license, you commit forgery, fraud, it doesn't matter. You're like, that's a criminal offense. It doesn't protect you anymore. And a lot of people say, well, Rick, he misconstrues like the liability. Dude, for 22 years, I've watched people get their license. I watched a $116,000 wholesale fee get reduced down to $5,000 because the real estate commission didn't think it was correct. Now, did they break the law? No, but a board of realtors passed judgment on them. And keep in mind, you are going to be overseen by realtors and brokers and some lawyers. Now, I'm not anti to protect the consumer, but like we all know, like the government usually goes way overboard with these protections. So what starts out as innocent, which probably would, what's it going to be like in 10 years down the road? Like I got to get the special permit and stuff like that. And this, we're all dealing with it. We're all in the same boat with it. But like once we open that Pandora's box, so I've always said the best defense for this, and I'll stand on it, is listen, an organization or anything like that, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to, I don't know what it would do. Like like if someone could show me a plan, if I can help out, I'm all for it. But the reality is the only thing to do right now is to either have one person or a bunch of people get together to put a defense fund up together. And the first time someone violates the law, if they followed, like if they did everything correctly, no fraud, no forgery, no fake proof of funds or anything, they're legitimately being taxed for their God-given right in the United States of America, as per their constitutional right to freely enter into a contract, and the state's restricting it. Let's go find the baddest ass lawyer and nail, like if we get case law, I don't care if you're my biggest enemy, we would all win, period. How to do that? I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I'm not leading that charge, but I wouldn't be opposed to help out with it because it's eventually going to happen. I don't disagree with that. But if we could get case law is we have to test it. Because in my opinion, as long as people don't break the common law is you don't misrepresent, you don't commit forgery, you don't do fraud, which by the way, almost all the cases you've seen outcome lately are just blatant lawbreakers, period. They could go to jail. Even if that was all, and they'd still go to jail. So the only way I would see to combat this is to create some sort of legal fund and then set parameters and then have a lawyer or somebody, an administrator or somebody review and make sure everyone abided, and then give the lawyer, whatever it is, 100, 150 grand, because that would be the best spent money. But the problem is these things get convoluted and they're hard to organize, and we just got to help people out. So if someone's got an idea, everybody knows how to get a hold of me. I would be all about like that program, like, because it's coming. And then who do we get? Who's the baddest ass attorney that would represent our interests, that understands how to litigate like a real law? Because all you got to do is, I don't know if it'll be by a judge, by a jury, but like I want it, like someone's going to get stuck. And let's face it, if you're a low-lying wholesaler and you do everything like correctly, meaning you actually put up a legitimate deposit, you didn't do a proof of funds, you did everything right, and you still get nailed, that's the person I want to help out. One case law, every influencer, every wholesaler, every business could just stamp on it until it ever got challenged. You do that, I believe a lot of these problems go unchecked. How we do it, I have no idea. Like I'm not going to sit there and tell you I know how to do it, but that's it. Guys, just getting a real estate license doesn't make you legit. You make yourself legit. I can't tell you how you got to do it like this way. Like if you're doing a fake proof of funds, it's fraud. Like it doesn't, like the law's already written. If you're going to copy and paste something, the law's already written. Like you can't do it. Like it's just because it's misinformation. If you withhold any information from any type of conventional loan, do you know the current president right now took on a massive loan, paid the whole thing off, and still wanted to put him away for 35 years for misrepresenting one fact, which, let's face it, most of us inflate when we do a loan application. I don't, but like it got misconstrued. There was no damage, no nothing, and they nailed him on it. And if you understand that, so I see these methods taught all the time. I'm just telling you, when it comes to any type of financing with a bank, if you are not fully disclosed, I don't care if you have a license, I don't care if you have a law degree, I don't care what you have, it's not going to protect you. Fraud's fraud, forgery's forgery, and 9 times out of 10, that's usually the biggest case when we do it. Now, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Ready? Because I promise I would get this done in 79 minutes. I think I've passed that. Persistence beats talent all day. You guys understand this? Give me the hardest worker with the best badass attitude. We can do amazing things in wholesaling. Give me someone that thinks they're so talented, but I only want to do paid per leads because it's easier. I only want to do direct mail. I only want to do this. Listen, you told me you would do anything to be successful in wholesaling. You told me you don't have a lot of money. I've given you a course. I've given you full permission to succeed. I can't make you take the action. So give me someone that's going to consume the information, a good education like freewholesaling.com or wherever you get it from, and then take incredible amount of precise, massive action. It's going to crush it. It will crush your best salesperson. So guys, listen, sales is not the number one indicator if you're going to succeed in wholesaling. That is such a fabricated lie. The only way that would work is if you skip marketing altogether. And honestly, if you skip marketing, you're really not into wholesaling to a point, and you don't understand like the journey of it. You have the right to do it. Absolutely. The failure rate is insane. There's no way to show you the stats to it because that would require everyone that has a paid course to show you what they are. I already told you, even with freewholesaling.com, there's tons of people that fail in there. But here's the difference is we talk about moral and ethical obligation. Someone pays you X amount of money and they fail. Like nobody feels bad about that. And it's like, well, they paid me. It was free will. I'm like, okay. So listen, everybody, there's too much information out there and there's not enough action taking. The person who's most persistent in wholesaling and they don't know a lot, those are the people that usually do the best with me. Why? No ego. They're not like, everything says I'm a master closer. And God, my God, you go on the internet, some of these like Mazer, like, you don't work for me unless you got a 6-pack abs. I think it's kind of a cool statement, but less than 1% of society has abs. So we got to be careful what we say on that. Give me the person with a great attitude and they'll just do the work and hustle. Man, I never have a problem with that person. The person who thinks they're so wildly talented, and I've had acquisitions, people like that, they never last. They're pure sprinters and it's a nightmare. And I don't want to deal with them. And you should do the same. So keep in mind, if you got a good attitude, you're not scared of hard work and you'll do it. I can't tell you when you're going to get your first deal, but if you have a no quit attitude and you don't quit, who the hell's going to stop you? And if you understand that, this business gets real easy. Somehow we got this business super complicated.